I was orphaned when I was 7 years old, right? So I want to be an example that circumstances don't really define you. I could have been raised in Botswana, but for different reasons, I ended up coming back here when I was 7 years old. And I'm glad I was raised in Zimbabwe.
Welcome back to Finance Unplugged. I'm your host, Milena, and joining me today is the man that keeps Harare moving, literally. He is the founder of one of the biggest car rental companies in Zimbabwe. Please help me welcome the founder of Yarutso Car Rental, Victor Madzedze. Victor, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So before we dive deep into Yarutso and entrepreneurship, what did you want to be growing up?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Well, I don't think I remember. It has always changed. But I think the earliest I can remember when I was 10 years old, and I watched a series called Studio 263. And there was a guy called Tom Bambo, who had a car written Bambo Holdings on his number plate. So he was an entrepreneur. And I remember thinking, this is a career path that I may find interesting, such that a lot of my teenage years, I spent time searching who are successful entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe. Your Strive Masiwas, your Legion Nakiras, your Bill Gates, your Warren Buffett. So I always thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never thought I would do it early. I thought maybe I'll have a career, maybe as an accountant or finance, or maybe marketing, then towards retirement, I go into entrepreneurship. But I can remember vividly when I was 10 years old, wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow. So you weren't born with keys in your hand then?
No, no. That's funny.
Okay, so some entrepreneurs plan everything and others take a leap. What was your experience? Did you plan this, or is it just something that just happened one day? Did I plan to be an entrepreneur? No, to start your car rental company.
Not really. What happened to me was that when I was 24 years old, I was thrown into a deep end where I was a commercial executive when I was 24. I was running the department of a media company, and so I was running sales, marketing, doing a whole lot of work, and I was dealing with clients, and I was directly responsible for the revenue of the company. So because of that exposure, I thought, you know what, maybe I can actually go and be an entrepreneur. So I wouldn't say I planned it, but it happened because of different layers of exposure.
Okay. What was the hardest part about taking that first step? Was it financing? Was it getting cars? Or was it winning customer trust?
The hardest. Interesting. Look, my approach is one of a bootstrapper. What that means is I've never, even in my previous experiences or in my previous startup experience, I never worked for a startup that was adequately capitalized. So I was never one to think finance really matters. I always knew that starting an idea is what actually traction matters more than finance. So because of that, I never thought there was a huge capital question. Perhaps the customer trust one part, because taking a product or taking our brand to people and getting traction and getting from one customer to 50 customers is maybe the part where it was a bit difficult. So I would say building customer trust was more difficult than maybe the capital question.
So how did you go about it to make customers trust you more?
So what we did was that from day one, we had a deliberate and conscious effort to to build great customer experience, right? So what we did is that because of customer experience, one happy client would refer the next happy client, would write the next review. And what you find is because of customer experience, customer acquisition then didn't become much of a big issue because, a lot of happy clients refer each other, our website speaks for itself, and things like that. So customer acquisition sort of grew organically because of different sort of building blocks that we put around it, yeah.
Okay. So building a company isn't just cars and systems, it's people. What kind of culture are you trying to build at Yarutso?
I like that question because, people will look at this question and think, should we want to join this company or not?
Yeah.
Yarutso is a high performance culture. So high performance is surely one thing that we really value, right? Idea meritocracy, which means that the best idea wins, is also something that we really value, right? So, and a culture, an entrepreneurial culture, which means that we are able to launch things that fail, which means that we are not scared we don't wait for perfection. We create products, whether it's a new service, whether it's a minor modification, whether it's something as small as introducing car seats. It's something where, a culture where if you have an idea, you bring up your idea, you execute, we go to market, we fail, and we move from there. That's sort of the culture that we build at Yarutso, high performance and meritocracy.
Yeah, they say that the best businesses have failed and restarted and failed and restarted. So it's in that we learn. Okay, so recruitment in Zimbabwe can be tricky. How do you pick the right drivers, the right admin, or mechanics, for example, who align with your brand?
That's a very important question because I've been deceived so many times. I've interviewed people who come across as they're very smart, sharp, educated. Turns out they're the biggest crooks. I've interviewed people who are not eloquent in an interview. We may actually switch it on to interview in Shona, because maybe the English isn't coming out very well. But guess what? They turn out to be your best performers and they stay with you for a while. So I'll actually say my approach is that I really try to look at the person's values. Do we actually have the same values, or we don't? Do you demonstrate that you're in it for the long haul? Are you disciplined? Are you consistent? Things like that. So I'm less impressed by a first-class degree. I'm more impressed by demonstrable hard work, demonstrable discipline. That's how I approach my hiring.
So what's one surprising or even funny thing you look for when hiring someone?
Do I have one funny thing that I don't know? I've seen a lot. I've seen, like I'm saying, I remember vividly interviewing someone and saying, you know what, ngataura neshona. So churungu but guess what? This person then joined us and they helped us a lot. They actually performed very well. I remember I once interviewed someone for a role, and the one person who did very well and the other one who seemed not so confident but looked like they're talented. But our hunch said, let's pick the one who looked like they're not so confident but talented, and we can train them on the confidence.
Yes.
And we've seen that work. So I've really gone by my sort of my hunch, and sometimes I just find myself making a decision that sort of goes against what the data looks like.
Using that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk scale. Growing a fleet isn't just about buying cars, it's about financing, maintenance, and other things. How have you managed to grow your fleet so far?
I mean, so remember what I said initially, that I come from a bootstrapping culture. So I'm not one to necessarily think I need $1 million today to buy the entire fleet. I actually come from a culture of you buy one car, that car performs, you save the money, you buy the second one, So I come from that culture of bootstrapping. I also have so I come from a bootstrapping retained income, right, or retained profit. What it means is that we reinvest a large pool of the profits. So I'm not the kind of an entrepreneur who, after hitting a profit, I'll then spend the money. I typically would even invest as high as 90% of the money back into the business, right? So that has really helped us grow our fleet size. And such efforts, I haven't really sort of gone to the banks because you know how difficult it is to raise money from the banks in Zimbabwe. Yes. But bootstrapping, one step at a time, it has really helped us. And over the last 6 years, we've actually built a sizable fleet because of that.
That can be very frustrating, though, to start small and just grow. What kept you motivated to keep going, even when it was small steps every single day?
So I think obsession with scale is also sometimes dangerous. I'm obsessed with progress. So what I call a 20-mile march. What that means is that 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. That's sort of our approach. So as long as we clear what our outcome looks like, let's say at year 5, we're clear that this is the kind of fleet size we desire. This is the type of clientele we desire. This is the revenues that we're targeting, and that's where we've gotten. Look, it can be dangerous to desire to have a fleet size as Avis with 1 million cars, in a constrained environment. So you need to look at what is practical, and that's how we've approached it.
So every business eventually asks, how do we attract investors? From your perspective, what makes a company investable?
So being investable is primarily for me 2 things, right? Number 1, do you have a proven track record, right? So I always encourage entrepreneurs from day 1, write your stuff down, right? Record your revenue, record your cost, even if you're a one-man band, right? So that you are clear that what is coming in, what is going out, what is being invested, what is operational expenses, right? And from day 1, Yarutso has always run audit accounts. So we literally started doing audited accounts from day 1, right? Even as a small business doing a very tiny turnover, right? Because then you can frame your story, you can pitch your story. If you say, what was Yarutso's revenue in year 1, I can literally just I actually know it by head. Year 2, I know it by head, right? And I can demonstrate. So being able to showcase this to investors makes you investable, right? Then what else makes you investable is who's leading the ship, right? Who's actually steering the ship, who's driving the bus. Are you an entrepreneur who demonstrates passion, who demonstrates performance, who's straight and narrow? A lot of people like to speak a big game and not be able to prove it. So I think who's running the business also really matters on your capability of being invested.
So do you think Yarutso is investor ready?
I mean, we have raised. We've raised. I wouldn't say how much or where, but we've raised. So, sure.
So just have a track record. That's your number 1 goal.
You have a track record, and the reason why I emphasized to say write your stuff down is because I'm trying to zero in on. Because an entrepreneur can say, but what does that actually mean? Because people may think, does it mean I have to get a KPMG or an Ernst & Young to come and look at my books? No, we're saying write your stuff down, write your income, your expenses, see your profit journey, things like that. At the end of the year, find someone independent. It could literally be someone you went to university with, who did an accounting degree. Give them your books and say, look at this and give me an independent view. You know, that is what I'm saying. To say, have a proven track record and document your stuff. Yeah.
So running a business in Zimbabwe has its unique realities, as we know. How has the environment shaped the way Yarutso operates?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, things like marketing and just sometimes the currency changes, fluctuations and things. How do you manage to stay on top of that?
Right, great question. My entrepreneurial philosophy is that one of a contrarian, right? What that means is that I don't necessarily buy into the hype that says Zimbabwe is difficult, you know, because when I look at Zimbabwe, I see a country with 16 million people and $3 billion in diaspora remittances and a $45 billion economy, right? And a booming construction industry and a $1 billion tourism sector. So when I'm looking at Zimbabwe, I actually see opportunity, right? So, and in any case, does it mean it's not constrained in its own capabilities? I think it is, just like everywhere else. So I believe that when you're approaching a market, right, there's a sort of a skill set that you need. So number one, I've always said discipline. I approach every business, I approach every decision with discipline, right? So no matter how difficult the environment is, I believe you should approach your information detail with discipline. No one has ever lost because they saved their money, even if the environment is sarcastic. The environment, you can always put money on the side, right? I believe in using data, right? Look at the actual data. What is the data saying? Where's the opportunity? Is the opportunity now ending? Where do you move your money to? Things like that. I approach things with paranoia. What that means is I read a lot. I read the MPS by the monetary statement, by the RBZ. I read, so because I read, I then am not hit by surprise to say the currency has changed. You will see the clues that the currency will change because they'll say it, that the currency is about to change. You know, it will then be a shocker for an entrepreneur to be surprised that the currency has changed. Are you sure it's coming from Norway? You know, and weren't you preparing adequately when you are reading and accessing information? So that paranoia of always being on the lookout, what's happening there, what's happening in the banking sector, in the insurance sector, you know, what's happening, the latest monetary statement came out a week ago. You know, the Arabs, they said we continue as planned. You know, as an entrepreneur, did you read the monetary statement? Things like that, you know.
So read, keep yourself up to date with everything that's going on. Okay, so running a business in Zimbabwe comes with curveballs. What's one crazy story you've had to deal with? Surely you have one. I feel like there's no Zimbabwean.
I'm just not so sure if it's a Zimbabwean thing. Because the reason is I'm not so sure because I have a lot of experiences. Like, we once had a car stolen. Someone came to the office, rented a car, went and sold it somewhere.
Oh my
goodness.
Goodness.
That can happen, right? I once hired a fraud. You know, someone is running their own parallel organization, whilst, you know, they're using our customer acquisition budget. Clients are coming in and they have a parallel car rental company on the side, and clients, so they use our money to acquire clients, then they say let's meet, and they give them a car on the side. That can happen. You know, I've had a situation where I bought a car today and it had an accident today. Right off. You know, so I mean, the part I'm saying, I don't think it's a Zimbabwean story. I think it's an entrepreneurial story where all crazy things can happen. But yeah, those are some of my stories.
Oh, wow. So car rentals can feel like a crowded market right now. In your own words, what makes Yarutso stand out from the rest?
There are many reasons. So, for example, Yarutso Car Rental has 340 reviews on Google.
Oh.
Right. I think we're easily, if not number one, we're number two in the country. Right. And those are genuine reviews from people across the world who have used our services, and they have said, we are going to give you a review because we liked we liked your service. Right. Yarutso Car Rental is one of the few car rental companies in Zimbabwe, maybe alongside the international car rental companies, that you can actually come and swipe your card from anywhere in the world. Literally come into our office and you can swipe. You know, you can actually make an online booking from start to finish online wherever you're in the world. So let's say you're sitting in Cape Town, you want to come to Zimbabwe, and if you booked your car for 5 days and you actually want to make a payment, Yarutso, you can actually complete the payment, and when you just come to Harare, you just get the airport and the car is there for you. So I think those are very big, differentiators for us. Besides the usual things like we have, a decent fleet, we have cars for everyone, from your budget to your mid-sized SUVs, to your trucks, your off-road cars with boot space and all that. And look, this sounds, I usually try to avoid buzzwords like, we're the best, we're the coolest and all those kind of, but I'm happy to say Yarutso has one of the best teams in the car rental sector. The average Yarutso employee has been there for 3 years, now going for 4 years, right? So these guys have seen it all, right? I'm talking about 5 people who have been there for literally about 4 years. So they have the experience and they are young, they can run, they can execute. So that's my competitive advantage, the Yarutso team, Yeah.
Yeah, you must be a very good boss then.
I'm not so sure they'll say the same.
So when you're not running Yarutso, what keeps you grounded?
Grounded?
Yes.
What do I like to do? So I'm a boring person, as I've been told. The only person who enjoys my company is my wife, Rufaro, and what do? We literally sleep and have conversations. I watch a lot of, for fun, by the way, I watch a lot of business-related information, your CNBCs, your Bloombergs. I do like to travel, usually in Q3, Q4, I may take a 10-day, trip away, but I mean, honestly, I'm mostly working.
Looking 5 years ahead, what's your vision for Yarutso?
Yarutso is going to be the biggest mobility company, at least in Southern Africa, in the next 5 years. And by this I mean fleet size, so Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zambia, I can see us dominating those markets. Yarutso is going to lead, introduction of hybrid cars, electric vehicles. I see us leading in this front. And just overall, the car rental that people really like to use, because we would have demonstrated that anyone can use us, any from international clients to diaspora clients to business segments to small businesses to tourists. We will be able to serve all these markets. I can see us leading in those fronts. So that's sort of our 5-year overview.
Speaking of electric vehicles, they're not very popular in Zimbabwe right now. So how do you plan to overcome that hurdle?
So of course, there are two fronts. So there's the infrastructure side, which I've seen the government of Zimbabwe taking a huge interest in. Like, for example, they have actually sort of reduced the cost of importing electrical charging equipment, because that's the biggest question, to say, can the cars be charged? So our government is playing a big role in making this infrastructure available. And once that sort of is rolling, we can surely buy those cars and bring them to market. Because at the end of the day, Yarutso gives you the car that you want. So what type of cars do you like yourself?
Myself, I like fast cars.
You like fast cars?
Yes.
So is there any type of car that you want?
Right now? I would say my dream car is an Audi.
An Audi?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm with Karen, our commercial manager, and I'm sure by end of day she'll be looking at how much it costs to get you an Audi here. And as long as there's enough market of people who desire that car, we'll have it in fleet.
Wow,
and that's our approach.
Awesome. So do you guys do like questionnaires, or how would you know, like, what kind of car does my customer want?
Yeah, so we actually do that, but not necessarily questionnaires, but we harvest a lot of data. What that means is every single day we have volume of people asking us, which cars we have in stock, which cars do they want, and we categorize that information and say what cars are being asked for. So when cars are stop being asked, we actually start disposing them off. If a car starts being asked frequently, we actually start stocking them more. Right? So we are very, like I said initially, we're very data driven, right? And that helps us make decisions.
Okay, nice. So I'll be looking forward to that Audi.
Sure. Sure. You can come and do a video of you, a commercial of you driving it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. Okay, so let's talk legacy and community impact. When you look at 10, 20 years ahead, what do you want Yarutso to be remembered for?
That's a very important question. I would want Yarutso to be seen as in the light of an Econet or a Nyaradzo, right? Brands that were created by Zimbabweans, right? Local homegrown brands that went on to do big things. Like, Econet is $1 billion company with multiple operations across the world. But more importantly, Zimbabwe gets to be connected because of Econet. That's how I like Yarutso to be seen, as this mobility company that was started by a young Zimbabwean, which went on to create jobs for thousands of people, was listed on a stock exchange, and things like this, pioneered things like electrical vehicles into the country, served, different business segments, corporate segments, tourists, and all that. So that's sort of my broad view of this. Yeah.
Okay. When you think about your own journey, who are the people or communities you hope to uplift through your work?
So that's a very important question, because maybe number one, I was orphaned when I was 7 years old, right? And I didn't have the usual story of an orphan that then didn't fully sort of utilize their potential, right? So I want to be an example that circumstances don't really define you. Surely it matters that you have an adequate support structure, right, like I did, right? But you can break through, and that's something that I would like to be attached to. So someone saying, but Victor did it one, I would really want that to be an example for a lot of people. Yeah, and that's what I would desire. People just say, I can leave corporate when I'm 25 years old, and because Victor left corporate when I was 25 years old and it worked out for him, so that's an example of what can be done.
That's very touching. Would you want the future generations to continue your legacy, or is it going to end with you?
Yarutso.
Yes.
They can do whatever they want. No, I'm not one to impose what people can do. You know, entrepreneurship in itself, I could actually dispose Yarutso at some point. You know, it's a business, and maybe after 5 years, we can sell it off to a big tourism company, you know. So I'm not necessarily attached to the idea of I want it to die with me, I want it to go on forever. No, I'm all about, if you see an idea, execute it very well, right? And make it commercially viable, all right? And if it means you sell it off, and you start another one, but critically don't miss the lesson of executional capabilities.
So you have a organization, the Expanding Opportunities Meetup, is that correct? How much of that is community impact versus business strategy, and what outcomes have you seen from those events?
I don't make any money from it, for your own information. I actually don't make any money from it, so let's get that out of the way.
Okay.
There's no business case in that. The plot with that was, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs, you know, startups who want access to seasoned executives or seasoned entrepreneurs, right? And the plot is, let's get into a room and let's have conversations, you know. Let's actually exchange those cards. Let's actually exchange those true opportunities. So it was just me saying, guys, instead of you saying, I do not have access to this person, let's have access to this person. So it's really about sort of pushing young entrepreneurs to say, you can network with people that you want to network with, and it's doable. That's the whole idea of expanding opportunities.
Do you see yourself as a mentor down the road or anything like that?
I wouldn't say I won't mentor anyone. I'm not necessarily big on structured mentorship, right? You sit there and I sit here and I'm now mentoring you. I'm not necessarily big on that, because then that makes things more complex, you know. I'm big on, if I meet you today and have a conversation with you and I learn a lot from you, and if I want to learn again, I can call you and I can come. That anyone can do with me. It doesn't have to be a contract of mentorship. I know it's a big industry and it's taken quite lucrative, and people like to say they're mentors, you know, but I just like, if you want to have a conversation with me, you know, quote me for coffee and let's sit down and ask me things that you want to ask me, because that's what I do. I go to people that the people that I admire. I go to their offices, I sit them with them for an hour, I soak as much as I can, you know. If I have I want to ask something, I call them, you know, and it's not necessarily a structured agreement, but I have a lot of mentors, you know.
So I'll be taking you out for coffee tomorrow.
Sure.
I have a lot more questions. Okay, so let's zoom into something lighter and have some fun with a quick fire round. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. What car would you add to your fleet, even if unrealistic?
G-Wagon.
That would be very nice. So we can expect Zimbabwe to kind of start looking like Dubai very soon. Yeah?
Sure.
What's one thing money can't buy?
Health.
Health.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Last question. What's one piece of advice you'd leave for someone listening who wants to build a scalable, investable business in Zimbabwe?
Execute. You said one answer, right? Execute.
No, this one you can.
Yeah, but look, Zimbabwe is a land of opportunity, and I stand by that. I'm glad I was born here. You know, I almost I could have been raised in Botswana, but for different reasons, I ended up coming back here when I was 7 years old, and I'm glad I was raised in Zimbabwe, because for me, nowhere else would I have had the equal opportunities that I've had access here. You know.
I definitely agree. Thank you so much, Victor, for joining us on Finance Unplugged. That's it for today's episode of Finance Unplugged. We'll see you next time as we continue to have conversations around finance, community impact, and innovation. Stay plugged in.